Hi, Blastpop here. Today I'm looking at No Peace Without Spain, the War of the Spanish Succession, 1702 to 1713, the Deluxe Edition. More on that later. This is published by Compass Games. This version is copyright 2019. The original goes back to, I believe, 2011, designed by Don Herndon. Included in the box on the box, is a slightly larger box than your standard size. It's maybe a quarter inch thicker, half an inch thicker, maybe not quite that much. And includes a mounted map, 22 by 34 inch, 2 sheets of counters, a deck of cards, rules and scenario book, which is in one combined book, player aid cards, 10 six-sided dice, and the box and the lid. It's listed as a complexity of 4 out of 10, a year per turn, 10,000 men or a corps of mixed arms and fleets, 1 to 2 players, best with 2. Solitaire suitability, high, 6 out of 10. That rating is a little out of whack. The solitaire suitability, if in fact is a 6, would probably at best be a medium solitaire suitability. Being a card-driven game, and with no discernible rules for solitaire play that I can see, that is an inaccurate description or characterization of the solitaire suitability for the game. Boxes of fairly good construction. Included are 10 six-sided dice, and they're of fair quality. Nothing fancy. They're a little bit bigger than some of the dice you get, but they're, again, fair quality. Cards included. Nicely illustrated. I will have to say that they bend a lot. I'm not so sure that, they're not definitely the same quality or construction as, say, the GMT cards. I mean, they're serviceable, but you might want to put them in a sleeve because I don't think over repeated play these cards are going to last terribly well. Especially if you do like the game. And the game does have a good reputation in general. So, presumably if you've invested in the Deluxe Edition, you're in it for the long haul. You have cards, you have event cards, and then you have the campaign cards, much akin to Mark Herman's We the People type system, which also is not the most easiest game to play solitaire. So, and this is a derivative of that, so I still don't see the solitaire suitability characterization as being accurate on the back of the box. Included in this edition is a full-color rules booklet that is illustrated. You have information about your counters, controller spaces, the map in general, the cards, the event cards, the action cards, the setup, how you win, stacking, the powers themselves, sequence of play, reinforcement phase, control of the Mediterranean supply, the event card phase, campaign phase, movement, about fortifications, interceptions. And this is a game definitely about fighting for fortifications. Battles, avoiding battles, fortified lines. And this continues on the Spanish events phase. Sieges, quite important in the game. Your scenarios and your setup. Continues on And then, which is kind of baffling, is you have this extended example of play, and you got, you know, various rounds, but the illustrations stop. And then on the following page, you do have a nice illustration here. Presumably explaining what is going on the board here for the situation, for the example that you're hopefully playing through, because otherwise it's very difficult to follow otherwise. I think it would have been nicer if they had broken up in each round a little smaller illustration, and if they needed additional space, they had it here. They could have gotten rid of potentially one of the illustrations for a period flavor. The other thing I've noticed about the rules, while they're, you know, they're nicely done and all that, the color change for me is difficult on my eyes, because you're starting off with a darker, and then you're working to a lighter, and then you're getting back to a little bit darker again with the orange down at the bottom, yellow orange at the bottom. So that's a little more difficult on the eyes. And I don't know if you can see it in this video or not, and this is at best a semi-gloss. It might be a glossy rules book, and with direct lighting, it can be a little bit challenging to read because of that. So a couple dings on the rules in general. Supposedly from this edition to from the previous edition, they incorporated changes in the rules and that kind of thing for any errata that might have been in the previous edition. Additionally, you have a player aid card, one for each player, and then two-sided 11 by 17, all in one place. Kind of opens kind of odd, because if you open it up and you need the information on the back, I guess you have to kind of flip it this way, go sideways instead of up and down, which would lead to a upside down chart, and then you have to flip it around to look what you're looking for. So it's a little inconvenient. Again, it's kind of glossy. It's not as well illustrated here in the lighting here. You might catch a little bit of gloss. Make it a little hard to see in places. Right there, I think you might be able to see some of the issues with direct lighting. So I'm not a big fan of gloss. You get two of those. You get two counter sheets. They're sort of like the plug, and they're pre-rounded. And it's a reasonably thick counter stock. Moderately easy to punch out. You have to be careful you don't rip them. And here's an example of the counter. They're probably like a 5/8 size. And on the back, the first sheet, second sheet, one complaint I have, you got some nice blank counters here that might have been used for either additional markers or just generic markers that you could take from this game and use elsewhere. Leaving these blank, I'm not a big fan of leaving blank counters on a counter sheet like that. That's just me. It's my own prejudice, I guess. And for the map. Map attempts to give you a period feel, and then you've got various attempts here, like a ghosting effect of period pictures and so on and so forth. And it's kind of a little hard to discern. I mean, I know what they're trying to do here. And then you have places here for cards, and it's so faded that I'm not really sure what they are unless you really look at them closely. I suppose once you get your cards on there, it's not an issue going forward within that particular game. You have your turns. You have your supply values, your armies, boxes. You got your fortifications on the board here. So the map goes from Spain and Portugal all the way up into France, a small portion of Britain up here, Portugal, like I mentioned. You have Italy, Papal States, Belgium, the Dutch Republic, the Empire, all the way to Vienna over into the east. I don't know, I think the pastels, I don't know, just the map doesn't really jump at me. There's too many pastels on the board. And then, you know, maybe the board's nicely mounted. It does seem to lie flat. But it seems like in an age when wargamers are getting older, they chose to make things more flashy, and on my eyes, as they're getting older, what they've done here does not make life easier for me to play a game of this. I mean, it's perfectly playable out of the box, no question about that. But it seems like they chose form over function here, and so the map is done by Mark Mahaffey. I think it was one of his earlier efforts. And while it's good, I'm not a fan of this particular style he's employing here. You know, your opinions may vary. So, you know, I think this is more of an upgrade as opposed to a deluxe edition. You know, in today's world, in game publishing, everybody is mounting their boards now wherever possible and practicable. Everybody's going for thicker counters. Everybody's trying to have box games for the most part, less emphasis on baggy type games, with a few exceptions. Color charts and rules are the order of the day. So while maybe 5 or 10 years ago this might be considered a deluxe edition, and admittedly it is an upgrade, there's no question of it, and I'm not debating that, but I honestly do believe that it's not truly deluxe edition in terms of, there's no, you know, plastic pieces, nor would you necessarily want plastic pieces in a situation like this. There's no wooden bits for markers and that kind of thing. So I do believe that this is more of a upgrade edition. Supposed to be a good game. My understanding that, unless they've changed it, I know people were concerned that there were some balance issues, but it was a fun game to play, so that didn't seem to faze people too much. And with nearly 10 years since it was first published, I'm sure that they've balanced things, changed the cards to reflect those imbalances as well as the rules. So this is the second bite at the apple for Compass Games for No Peace Without Spain. Please comment, like, and subscribe. You've been watching the What's in the Box for No Peace Without Spain, the Deluxe Edition. Bye.